there comes a point in everybody's life when talking ain't enough, when trying ain't enough, when worrying ain't enough, and all that's left is prayer. That's the moment when you have to stop fighting with your own hands and start trusting with your heart. Because prayer is not a magic trick. It's a relationship. It's not about the words that come out of your mouth. It's about the faith that sits quietly in your chest. People say they pray, but they don't really trust. They treat prayer like a request form instead of a lifeline. But when you learn to really trust in your prayers, when you hand it over and mean it, that's when the atmosphere changes. That's when things begin to shift without you even touching them. There were times when I prayed and didn't see nothing change. Days went by, weeks went by, and I started asking, is anybody even listening? But what I didn't understand then was that faith doesn't work on my timeline. Faith has its own schedule. Sometimes the delay is not a denial, it's preparation. See, God's timing don't match your impatience. You're asking for something today that you're not ready to handle yet. So he hides it until your character is strong enough to carry it. That's why you can't just pray and panic. You can't pray and complain. You can't pray and then try to fix it all yourself. You got to pray and trust, pray and wait, pray and grow. Some people think prayer is supposed to be easy, but it's not. It's one of the hardest things to do in this noisy world, because the moment you pray, the enemy of your peace starts whispering doubt. The moment you believe, fear tries to speak louder. You have to choose what voice you listen to. You can't let fear cancel what faith already signed. You have to wake up every day and say, I might not see it yet. I trust it's working. Because faith is like a seed. It grows underground where you can't see it. You don't dig it up every morning to check if it's growing. Just water it with belief and you wait. I learned that the power of prayer is not just in asking, it's in releasing. When you release your worries into prayer, you make room for peace to take over. You ever notice how heavy life feels when you're trying to control everything? You walk around carrying what was never yours to carry. The moment you drop it in prayer, the moment you let it go, something inside you exhales. That's trust. That's saying, I don't know how, but I know who. That's saying, I can't see the way, but I know there's a way being made right now. You got to stop doubting your own prayers. Stop canceling your blessings with worry. You can't pray for rain and then complain when it gets cloudy. You can't pray for strength and then run from struggle. Every answered prayer requires your participation. Sometimes God answers you by stretching you. Sometimes he answers by removing people you begged him to keep. Sometimes he answers by shutting doors that were taking you away from your purpose. So when it hurts, when it's confusing, when it feels unfair, remember, that's still an answer. It just doesn't look like the one you wanted. When I was at my lowest, I prayed out of desperation, not out of trust. I was begging instead of believing. But then life taught me that begging don't move mountains. Believing does. When you beg, you're unsure. When you believe, you already know it's done. So I started changing the way I pray. I stopped asking like a beggar and started thanking like a believer. I said, I thank you because I know you heard me. I thank you because you're already working on it. And that changed everything. My attitude changed. My peace returned. Because trust is gratitude before the miracle shows up. Sometimes you got to pray through tears. Sometimes you got to pray while you're still hurting. Don't wait till it's all good to open your mouth. That's not faith. Faith is praying while it's dark, while it's heavy, while it don't make sense. Faith is believing that your pain still has a purpose. There's power in the broken prayer, the one that don't sound perfect, the one that just says, help me. Because Heaven understands tears better than words. When you trust in your prayers, you stop needing proof. You start walking with peace that passes understanding. People always say, I've been praying, but nothing's changing. But sometimes prayer doesn't change your situation. It changes you. It rearranges your spirit. It calms your anger, builds your patience. You start realizing that what used to bother you doesn't bother you anymore. That's growth. That's God working quietly behind the scenes. See, he never said it would happen overnight. He said, in due season, you will reap if you faint not. That means don't stop praying because the clock is ticking. Keep trusting because the process is still unfolding. You got to talk to yourself different. You got to wake up and say, it's handled. You prayed about it. Now live like it's done. Walk with that quiet confidence. Not arrogance, confidence. Confidence that says, if I trusted him with the small things, I can trust him with the big ones too. The problem is, trust God with Sunday prayers, but take back control on Monday morning. We pray, but we don't rest. We say, I trust you, but we keep worrying. Real trust means peace in the middle of the problem. Real trust means you can sit still while life looks shaky. Real trust means you believe that the one who started it is strong enough to finish it. You ever look back and realized that everything you once cried about became part of your testimony? You didn't see it then, but you see it now. That's what trust looks like in real time. It doesn't make sense now, but it will later. You just have to keep walking through the unknown. You have to understand that unanswered prayers are sometimes the best protection. Some doors stay closed because what's behind them could destroy you. Some relationships end because they were draining your destiny. So stop calling losses what heaven calls lessons. Trusting in your prayers means you're learning to rest, not retire. It means you stop asking when and start saying whenever. Because whenever it happens, it will be right. Whenever it comes, it will be worth it. Whenever it's answered, makes sense. You can't rush a masterpiece. You can't hurry purpose. And you can't push faith faster than time allows. What's yours will not miss you. You gotta stay faithful long enough to meet it. Prayer is not a transaction, it's transformation. Every time you pray, something in you shifts. Every time you kneel, something inside strengthens. You think you're waiting on God, but half the time he's waiting on you to let go, to forgive, to grow, to release the bitterness, to move forward. You can't carry hate and expect heaven to answer love. You can't hold on to anger and expect peace to flow. That's why trusting your prayers means cleaning your heart. You ever met somebody who looks calm no matter what's going on around them? That's not luck. That's trust. That's a person who knows where their help comes from. That's a person who has cried and prayed enough to understand that storms don't last forever. That's what prayer does. It doesn't remove storms. It gives you peace inside the storm. That's the kind of strength people can't explain. That's the kind of calm that comes only from believing that no matter how bad it looks, you're still covered. So stop giving fear the microphone. Stop letting doubt narrate your story. Every time your mind says, it's not happening. Your faith needs to answer, watch me wait. Every time your worry says, what if it doesn't work? Your faith needs to say, what if it does? That's what trusting your prayers sounds like. It's not loud, it's steady. It's not desperate, it's determined. It's not about knowing the details, it's about knowing the destination. You already know who's driving. Sit back and ride in peace. You gotta remember that patience is a form of praise. Waiting is not wasted when you trust the one you're waiting on. You're not stuck, you're being prepared. You're not ignored, you're being built. You're not behind, you're being positioned. So don't rush the process. Don't let comparison steal your contentment. Your journey has its own timing, its own lessons, its own miracles. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not growing. Some blessings need time to mature before they show up. When you pray, don't bring fear to the table. Bring faith. Fear looks at the mountain and says it's too big. Faith looks at the same mountain and says it's already moving. Fear says you're alone. Faith says you're covered. Fear says it's over. Faith says it's just beginning. You feed is the one that grows. So feed your faith daily. Talk to yourself like someone who's already blessed, already chosen, already equipped. Because you are. I learned that the moment you stop trying to control the outcome, peace walks in. The moment you stop overthinking, answers start showing up. That's what trust does. It clears the noise so you can hear guidance. It makes room for miracles that panic used to block. You'll never see the full plan, and you're not supposed to. If you could see everything, need faith. Faith. Faith is for the moments when sight fails. Faith is the evidence of things unseen, and prayer is the language of that faith. Sometimes, biggest miracle is not getting what you asked for, but becoming strong enough to handle what you didn't expect. That's maturity. That's trust. You're learning to see the blessing inside the brokenness. You're learning that peace is not found in answers, but in assurance. Assurance that says, even if it doesn't happen my way, I still believe it's working. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. When you trust your prayers, you start to live differently. You stop explaining yourself to everybody. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even pray for you. You stop rushing, stop panicking, stop doubting. You just move with quiet confidence. You smile more, you sleep better, because you know that everything you prayed for is being handled in ways you can't even imagine. So next time you get on your knees, don't just talk, trust. Just ask, believe. Don't just hope, expect. Because faith without expectation is empty. Expect your peace back. Expect your joy back. Expect your breakthrough. Expect your healing. But most importantly, expect your heart to change. Because once your heart changes, your whole life follows. That's the real power of trusting your prayers. Faith doesn't move on your timing. It moves when your heart is ready. Every person who has ever prayed, hoped, waited for something bigger than themselves knows the silence that comes after the prayer. It's that quiet space where nothing seems to move, where you start asking questions in the dark if heaven forgot your name. But faith isn't a machine that takes your request and spits out results. Faith is a conversation between your growth and your readiness. Sometimes it waits for you to catch up. There are moments when you feel ready on the outside, but empty on the inside. You think you can handle the blessing. Your spirit is still learning how to hold peace without fear. That's why some doors stay closed, even when you're knocking with both hands. The lesson isn't about rejection, it's about preparation. You can't carry the weight of a new season with the strength of an old mindset. Faith pauses the motion until your heart catches up with your purpose. Doesn't mean wasting. There's purpose in the pause. The pause is where patience builds muscle, where trust grows roots, where peace learns how to breathe under pressure. You understand that. You stop treating delay like punishment and start seeing it as divine protection. You begin to realize that sometimes the most merciful answer you can receive is not yet. Because if you received what you wanted before you were ready, very thing meant to bless you could break you. Think about the times you wanted something so badly that you couldn't sleep. You begged, you planned, you cried, and still nothing moved. Years later, you look back and say, thank God that didn't happen back then. That's faith doing its quiet work behind the scenes. Faith doesn't rush, it refines. It watches the shape of your heart and waits until it can hold what it asked for without trembling. When life feels still, don't mistake it for absence. Faith is like a seed buried under the soil. It's doing its work where eyes can't see. Roots don't grow in the spotlight. They grow in the dark, in the dirt, in silence. Faith is doing the same thing. It's strengthening beneath the surface, preparing to hold the weight of what's coming. Every day that feels slow is still sacred. Not yet. Is still progress. Faith will test you not to break you, but to reveal you. It'll show you what's real and what's just noise. It'll teach you to let go of control, to breathe even when you don't understand the plan. That's what makes trust so powerful. It's surrender without proof. It's peace without explanation. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to see the finish line to know I'm moving in the right direction. Sometimes you'll pray and the answer will come disguised as a challenge. You'll ask for strength and life will give you battles. You'll ask for wisdom and people will test your patience. You'll ask for peace and everything around you will start shaking. That's faith training you. It's teaching you how to carry blessings without losing balance. It's shaping you into the person who can hold abundance without forgetting humility. Faith doesn't move on your clock because it's not controlled by time. It's controlled by readiness. If everything happened the moment you ask, never learn the beauty of process. You'd never discover the parts of yourself that only grow in waiting. The longer it takes, the deeper the roots go. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. That's what faith is doing while you think nothing is happening. When you finally understand that, you stop begging for doors to open and start preparing for when they do. You start using the waiting season to sharpen your mind, clean your heart, strengthen your character. You start thanking instead of complaining because faith doesn't reward impatience, it rewards preparation. You can't rush divine timing, but you can get ready for it. You can show up every day with consistency, with gratitude, with quiet strength. That's where miracles happen, inside the ones who refuse to quit believing even when nothing moves. You have to understand something powerful when you pray. It's not about changing the mind of heaven. It's about changing the posture of your heart. Prayer isn't a shopping list. It's a surrender list. You're not handing God your demands. You're handing Him your trust. Every prayer you've ever whispered, even the ones through tears and confusion, has been heard. No word of faith ever disappears. It plants itself into the soil of divine timing. But here's the truth. Trusting in your prayers doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you stop doubting during the storm. It means you anchor your peace in something bigger than what's happening around you. Because storms don't test your faith, they reveal it. The rain falls and the thunder rolls. That's when your trust speaks loudest. You can't say you believe in calm seas. Prove it when the waves start rising and you still keep rowing. People often say, I've been praying, nothing's changing. What they don't realize is that something is changing them. The prayer you make might not move mountains right away, but it moves you. It shifts your heart from fear to faith, from frustration to patience, from doubt to strength. The prayer might not fix the situation, but it fixes the way you stand inside the situation. That's real transformation. There's a reason you don't see instant answers. If blessings arrived before wisdom did, you'd waste what was meant to grow you. You can't drive the car of your destiny on the tires of immaturity. That's why prayer doesn't just hand you miracles. It prepares you for them. The waiting season is like faith boot camp. It's where discipline, humility, and endurance are built. Trusting in your prayers means you don't stop when it's silent. The silence is not rejection. its refinement, every unanswered prayer is still working for you. Sometimes the silence is heaven saying, I'm not ignoring you, I'm arranging it. You're not being delayed, you're being aligned. The timing isn't late, it's layered. Every thread, every person, every circumstance is being woven perfectly, even if it feels like chaos right now. And one day, when the door finally opens, you'll realize why it took so long. You'll see that the version of you who started praying wasn't ready to walk through that door, but the version that waited grew, stayed faithful. That's the one who can now handle what's on the other side. That's what trust builds. Readiness without desperation. Prayer isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you need to be. When you trust your prayers, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what's this teaching me? Because every delay teaches patience. Every disappointment strengthens faith. Every loss deepens wisdom. And all of that builds the kind of foundation that blessings can stand on without collapsing. Sometimes your prayer will go unanswered, and that too is an answer. Because not everything you want is good for you. Not every opportunity that glitters is gold. Every open door leads to peace. Faith doesn't mean everything goes your way. It means everything that happens has a way. Even rejection is direction. Even pain has purpose. Trusting your prayers means trusting the no as much as the yes. It means thanking God when He blocks something because you understand that unseen danger exists in what looked desirable. It's easy to trust when everything goes right. Real faith is trusting when everything goes quiet. When the world says, give up, and your heart whispers, hold on, that's where spiritual maturity begins. The person who trusts their prayers doesn't need to see the path. They just need to take the next step, because faith doesn't show you the whole staircase. It shows you one step and says, move. And when you do, the next one appears. That's how miracles unfold. Not through sight, through steps. When you start trusting your prayers, you stop living in panic mode. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop feeling behind because you realize that everything has its own season. The tree doesn't envy the flower, and the flower doesn't rush the seed. Everything blooms when it's supposed to. Your turn is coming. But when it does, make sure you've become the person who can sustain it. Every time you pray, believe that something good is being set in motion, even if it's invisible. The blessing might not come how you imagined, but it will always come how you need it. That's why it's important to stay grateful even when you don't understand. Gratitude keeps your faith alive while waiting. Gratitude turns the waiting room into a worship room. You have to remind yourself the delay doesn't mean denial. You're not being formed. The things that take the longest often last the longest. Fast blessings fade, grown blessings stay. So don't let impatience make you settle for something smaller than what's meant for you. What's yours will never miss you. It's just being prepared for your arrival. Trust in your prayers like the sun trusts the dawn. It might disappear for a while. It knows it's coming back stronger. Faith has its own rhythm. It moves in silence, but it never stops moving. That's why you don't have to chase what's divine. You just have to align. Keep your heart clean, your hands steady, your mind focused, and your spirit open. Because when it's time, what's meant for you will find you so effortlessly that you'll wonder why you ever worried at all.